Okay, I'm sitting here experimenting with the ads and chopping stuff, and I'm not getting it on video, so that's what everyone wants to see anyway. Enough with the talking about it, and let's see it chop something. Well, I'm going to be using this for things that you normally wouldn't think it's going to be used for, because if it's just for chopping, like let's say I wanted to chop the bark off of this, like you'd see maybe in a documentary, there's woodworking going on where you watch the guy with the adze doing some simple chopping. Excuse me while I move the lamp so I don't do the banging on the lamp there. Anyway, you can do the chopping, this kind of stuff with the adze, to get rid of the bark and the knots and stuff like that. This is a seasoned piece of maple, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's even elm. I can't tell. Anyway, you can sit here and do this all day with the adze, and yeah, it works, but it doesn't work as well as the stone flake that I just had a second ago. There it is. This thing. And this thing's much lighter. Okay. So you can carry it out in the field if you want to strip the bark off of some wood that you found that's fallen or whatever. There's no reason to use a complicated adze. And I'm not using any extra force. I just put the glove on because it's got a sharp edge on this side. You don't need to use much force at all. And it cuts right through the knots. Yep, there's some tear out because it's not a perfect slice. Right, but it's just, as long as the stone has the correct edge, you just need a flake to do this kind of stuff. And that's it. Now, you'll say, well, this needs to be sharpened and it loses its shape. Well, so does this. This needs to be sharpened and it loses its shape as well. Now, how do you sharpen the adze? Well, you can take it out of the haft, but as I was doing this last night, you don't have to take it out of the haft. Excuse me while I mess with this. I put it all away. All right. You just get a piece of leather. Get it to your napping position. In your little cramped lodge. Kids are going, what are you doing in there, Dad? What are you doing in the lodge all day? And chipping my adze. You just press your flake downward. Beveling flakes. Beveling flakes. You don't need to take it out of the haft. So why don't I just demonstrate? Why didn't I demonstrate a perfectly sharpened adze instead of one I've been already experimenting with? It's not fair. The flake is sharp and the adze is not sharp. Because the results are not that great anyway. That's why. It might look great. Good for a documentary, right? I mean, the results are not spectacular. Chopping is something that's very, very simple. It's a no-brainer. You only need a flake. I'm already slicing myself. All right, here you go. Yeah, I need to put the glove back on because if I grip that flake really hard and then start chopping with it, now you're saying they didn't have gloves back in the day. What did they do? Well, you can take some time and wrap this with some leather. And I was cutting up some leather earlier. This kind of stuff. I could wrap it with this. Blah, blah, blah. And mess with this stuff. So there you go. Glove and the leather. You can mess with it. But glove is faster. That's why I'm doing it with the glove. But you can wrap this with leather. Or you can grind it around the edges where it's sharp. But I like to have my options open and not grind it too much, because then it reduces my options. I might want to use that edge in case something happens. In case I cause a big tear out in the flint, so to speak. Okay, so this is what the Adze did. This is what the flake is doing. If I want to be really genteel, I can make the flake stuff really smooth. You see it? Can't see it? I'll change the angle on this one of these days and do it from the front view. Alright, so flake and Adze. It's not fair because the Adze had to chop through a knot. Okay, fine. Let's go over here and finish out with the Adze. Or let's do some of the work with the Adze. Are you seeing a difference? The difference, one of the differences is the Adze takes smaller chops, smaller, more narrow little pieces. So that means I got to use a lot more chops. Okay, Adze, flake. You say, well, you just use a lot more chops with the flake to get it nicer. Yeah, but you can see, if I didn't tell you which is which, you wouldn't be able to tell me. Oh yeah, that's the blade. I mean, that's the flake, and this is the Adze. I can tell right away. No, you can't tell right away. And which is faster, easier? The flake. And if it becomes dull, you just use the pressure flaker in the leather pad. Chip it up. And what about when it gets too fat? Switch it over to this side. Get another flake. What if you don't have any flakes? We don't have nothing. Then yes, that's when you would use an Adze. Now we're getting down to one of the good reasons. When you have limited resources, it allows you to put in a bit that is small. One of the advantages I'm thinking, or I'm seeing, is I can even use a smaller bit. I measured this earlier. Let me see. There's my measuring tool. It's not even 3 inches long. All right, where'd you go? I got 5 tape measures and calipers and yardsticks. Here we go. Can't find one within 5 seconds. All right, so this particular piece is only 2.5 inches long, and it can be even shorter. Now, some of you guys might be saying, well, that's too short because it'll get clogged up. Well, what did it get clogged up by? Nothing so far. The only time I'd get this clogged is if I was digging in the ground, chopping roots or something, which I am going to try eventually. But one of the advantages I see for this arrangement is when you don't have much material and all you have is these. Maybe this is part of a cobble. It's just barely taken off from a cobble. Let's say the top, let's pretend the top is the cortex. you just hit a cobble and broke off the top half, or yeah, let's say the whole cobble was that big. You split it with what they call bipolar reduction, and all you got is half the cobble. Well, your adze is pretty much done, except for the the bevel flaking here and the bevel flaking there, and then you're done. Maybe some contouring on the sides. This is, I think, one of the main reasons, again, is because of limited material. Okay, now, am I going to be using it to shape wood, like taking bark off? No, I think it's a waste. Will I be using this for other things? Yes, I'll be using this for other things. You're going to demonstrate every single thing that you can possibly cut with it? Yes. You're going to cut some antler with it? Yes. I'm going to use it to work antler. Now let's see, do I want to? Yeah, I want to do this. This is an antler cut from the bone. It's not a shed, so it's not crumbly on the outside. It's hard antler. Now, why would I want to shape antler like this? Because this takes forever if you're going to saw it. Take one of these things and just saw on it. Try to get through this antler. Yeah, you can make this trench, but can you make a wide trench? How long is it going to take you to make a wide trench with the flake? It's going to take a long time, right? Let's say the adze takes a long time. It's not fatiguing like the sawing motion from the flake. Now, why do you want a large trench? Well, because you're going to get to the point where that flake is going to bottom out. I don't know how else to explain it. But what happens is, I don't know what flake I was using. Eventually, the flake will encounter resistance from the sides of that trench. And you're going to need to widen it to get the flake down in there more and get it in there easily. This one's already starting with a wide trench, so that as you continue, you can, chop it like a piece of wood. And you don't have to worry about expanding it, because you're just chopping it like you would be chopping a piece of wood. Now, this is hard to do with a flake because it requires some amount of force to get through that antler. Okay? So yeah, you can cut antler like this and maybe even snap it. But this way, it's a lot less fatiguing. And I'm going to get into shaping antler with the adze, all right? And that includes sharpening, so you don't have to be grinding the antler. I might even do some tool tips, like the pressure flaker tool tips, because you can do some minute work. Minute work with the adze, because it does allow some accuracy. So you're not spending a ton of time. Let's see. Yeah, you're not spending a ton of time grinding this stuff. To make it pointy. You can grind it after you're done with this particular operation. Can you see the difference now? After just that little bit of time. Whereas if I was doing that with just grinding, it would take a lot longer. So the number 2 reason for using an Adze: shaping bone and antler. I mentioned the other day, or yesterday, the advantage is the replacing of the tool tips or the bits with different sizes, different styles, different materials. Okay, I can put a bone or antler bit in here. You guys that like to work wood with antler or bone, you can put an antler or bone bit in here. Doesn't need to be stone. You can put quartzite, you can put all kinds of nasty material, or you can put the best material possible and make a beautiful Adze blade. Alright, and you can scale these up to where instead of being maybe an inch in diameter, let's see, it's more than an inch. This is 1 3/8. Let's say we want make one 3 inches in diameter with a big old spade on it. That's what they call it in the archaeological texts. Sometimes they call them spades. You can do that too. Big old gigantic spade. And that's what I also would consider an advantage to this type of arrangement. Mounting large blades easily onto a haft, onto a handle. Okay? Let's see, what else can I think of? So the advantage is not much material. I can work bone and antler. I can interchange the bits, different materials. I can even put slivers of antler or bone in here. I'm sure there's maybe another reason why. You can also put in a point, like an antler tine, something pointy, as a pick. Various other things, interchangeable bits. That's a general category of that advantage. So there's another advantage I'm going to get into. I need to explore it though. I'm working with these tools off camera. This tool off camera to see what else I can do. All right. Yeah. If you put it down on an object and hit the back of it, it can be used as a chisel, for example. As long as the back of it is dull and rounded, you can use it as a chisel. As another example. Okay? But you need to change the bit so it's not as wide. A more narrow chisel works best, I'm finding out, because there's less surface area, more force being generated for that little tiny area, and it's able to clear out the wood from the channel or whatever you're trying to chisel out. Okay, the wider this bit is, the more force required to remove the material. Okay, so yeah, I'm excited about working with the tool tips, with the Adze, making some more bits. I think the next video I'm just going to make another bit out of a better material. You know, extremely tough raw stone or something. See how that works out, and start comparing. I've been looking in different books, comparing the shape of what they think are end scrapers to what I've got. And I think a lot of the end scrapers that they're showing are actually Adze blades used for things other than hide scraping. I was under the impression that most of these were used for hide scraping, these end scrapers, because this is an end scraper. The scraping so-called edge is on one end. All right, I've been looking into books. There are different sizes and shapes. All right, I'm going to make those different sizes and shapes and see if I can haft them to this type of arrangement. Okay, so that's coming up in the next videos. The very next one is going to be flint knapping one of these, along with other flint knapping videos of other points that I'm going to be making. All right, okay.